stop right now, never do another thing, and just kind of, make multiple seven figures a year for the rest of my life, and that'd be cool. I don't know. I feel like you're growing or you're dying, though. I think that's a universal law, right? You're either ripening or you're rotting. Here he is. Why would I stand in front of a mirror and say positive affirmations and all this different stuff? But I realized, like, guess what? These are people who were massively successful doing these things. And it was pretty consistent across the board where everybody, all these multimillionaires and billionaires were all saying it. And I was like, well, maybe they know something that I don't know. I don't even know where I came up with this, but like I wrote down, I want to be able to travel anywhere in the country, really anywhere in the world, and just be able to pick up the phone and call up somebody that I have a good enough connection with that just goes and says, hey, let's go grab a drink, let's go grab coffee, let's go grab dinner. And I just want a friend essentially in every single city around the country. And how do you plan that, right? How do you organize that? How do you construct that?
In the first episode, Tim and I dive into getting so specific on what it is you want out of life, how to use the law of attraction to achieve anything imaginable, why he spends over 6 figures a year on coaching, and how he manifested the private island, the beach house, and the mountain house. You guys might be wondering, why am I starting a podcast? And I don't have a clear answer to that yet, but I will be uploading a video next week going into detail about the inspiration behind it, the mission of who I want to help, and what I want the channel to be about. I'll be the first to admit I am a little anxious in the video. It's definitely a little nerve-wracking talking in front of a camera. I've always been a camera shy person, but if you clicked on the video, let me know in the comments if you found any value, or if you have any questions, leave them down below.
I went through high school and college when the market was going crazy last time. So in college, it was 03 to 07 is when I was there, and that's when real estate was going gangbusters. Everybody's making money in real estate. That was something that motivated me, was making money. And, I used to think that I wanted all the fancy stuff and everything, and that has a different meaning to me now. But that's why I pursued real estate, because I knew people who I was like, dude, people with half a brain, right? And this guy's making money. I was like, this guy's making money. I'm going to get rich doing this stuff. So I dove into real estate and moved out. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio originally, moved out to New York City, really just because my brother was living out there and I had a free place to stay. And got a real estate license. I thought that's how you got involved in real estate. So got a real estate license, started brokering commercial real estate, doing really office leasing and retail leasing, and brokered a couple small deals, but they were like substantial numbers financially, especially for a 22-year-old kid. And I was like, man, I need to be owning real estate, not brokering real estate. And so we had a crappy winter up in New York, and I wanted to move down south, just have some better weather. And somebody told me good things about Charleston, South Carolina. So I moved down to Charleston in 2008 and just studied the heck out of real estate. And it was like, all right, man, I'm going to go out and just jump in and figure this out and go and buy a real estate and become a real estate investor. And then that's when the bottom of the market just totally fell out. Everybody was running from real estate. I had just shown up to the party and I'm like, where's everybody going? And so I ended up still pursuing real estate. The prices had dropped so substantially that I was able to go and buy a house on my credit card. And I flipped that first house, made some money, did it again, got into wholesaling, got into flipping, got into buying rental properties, and then really the BRRRR method, buy, renovate, rent, refinance. And I started doing that with a bunch of properties as well, and had a small portfolio by the time I was 25. And then, I thought, I had money, so I went and bought a Mercedes, and I joined the private clubs and went through all that stuff. But within 2 years, I was totally broke, and moved back to Cleveland, Ohio, and kind of pressed the reset button, started again, and partnered up with some people who had some money. I did all the work and started buying real estate again, and did that. That partnership actually ended up going sour after a couple of years. And so we liquidated everything, pressed the reset button again in like 2015, 2016. And since then, I just kind of had my own business. Built my team organically with an assistant first, and then brought in, interns and joint venture partners, and then brought them in-house and started just building up my team that way. And over the past 6 years, we built a portfolio of just shy of 5,000 doors, over $400 million of property value. And it's not like we're small owners of that. We are the majority owners. I am the managing member of 95% of it, and we are and I'm the loan sponsor on 95% of it as well. So we're substantial partners and owners in commercial real estate. So that turned into like, hey, Tim, how do you do what you do? And then people ask me to consult and coach and mentor and that kind of stuff. So I have a small coaching business as well, and that's kind of fun. That's where I get like the most fulfillment out of my day. But the real estate is great from a lifestyle perspective.
So I want to first jump into the islands. Just over a week ago, you bought an island, and I bring this up because you said something in your caption that really resonated with me. You said, "Buying an island has been a goal of mine since the start. I didn't know how, I didn't know when, but I wrote it down. And because I wrote it down, I knew the universe would one day respond." So can you explain to me what the purpose of writing a goal like that down was and sort of how that came to be true? Because I know it just didn't magically come to you. You had to be doing something right. So go through what you were doing, like how that process sort of came to be true.
Yeah, man. I think it's a really good question. I think when you go down this path of entrepreneurship and personal development and all that kind of stuff, you start reading the books and people tell you to write down your goals and eventually it will manifest and all this stuff. And I remember early on thinking like this ethereal, intangible, like fluff, foofy, goofy stuff up in the universe. Like, what does that mean? How could that be serious? Why would I stand in front of a mirror and say positive affirmations and all this different stuff? But I realized, like, guess what? These are people who were massively successful doing these things. And it was pretty consistent across the board where everybody, all these multimillionaires and billionaires were all saying it. And I was like, well, maybe they know something that I don't know, because I was worth thousands of dollars, not even tens of thousands of dollars when I started like going down that path.
Definitely it sounds cheesy at first to say.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And you're like, well, and I went through an exercise. Shoot, I was probably 22, 23 years old. And it was like, make a bucket list. Like what's 100 things that you want to accomplish or things that you want to do and experience in your life. And it's pretty easy to make a bucket list of like 10, 20, 30, maybe even 40 things. You really have to start getting creative when you get into 70, 80, 90. But one of those early on was to own an island. Like you hear about Richard Branson owns an island and all these millionaires and stuff own islands. And I was like, dude, that would be badass, right? Like it'd be cool to own some property, but it would be really badass to own an island. And so there were a lot of things like that I just kind of wrote down. I wrote that down on my bucket list and I didn't really pursue it necessarily. I wasn't really like looking for an island. But over time, I built up the real estate portfolio, and there were a bunch of other things that were kind of like on that list. Let me circle back to that. But I built up the real estate portfolio, and I always wanted a house in the mountains. I wanted a beach house first, then I wanted a house in the mountains, and then I wanted an island. Like those were the three main things. I wanted a brownstone up in like Back Bay area, Boston as well. But I don't know if I really want to own rental real estate in residential rental real estate in New York or Boston or anything anymore. But those were the three big ones: a beach house, a big mountain house, like a lodge up in the mountains, and then an island. And so earlier part of this year, or actually late last year, we had a mastermind that I hosted up in like Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and my family came, and we had a bunch of entrepreneurs out there, and we had an awesome time. And it was it's kind of an odd Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge is kind of like a weird area, so I didn't want to like be there, but I wanted to be kind of closer to Charleston, South Carolina, which is where I live now. And I started looking around just on Zillow, dude, for mountain houses. And I found some properties. I wanted some land with it. And I just set the parameters. And over the course of a couple of months, I was just intentional about looking for a mountain house. Came across a ridiculous house up in the mountains. It's like a castle on over 50 acres. And the seller was motivated. I got him to seller finance it at 4% interest rate for 10 years. And it just created a lot of realization to me that I can buy these super unique properties under pretty awesome terms, because these are people with money who understand investment and they're open to seller financing and doing some of those kinds of things. And I just started swinging the bat. And so I bought that house in March of this year. And then we got that up and running, got it totally stable, got it with a management company. It's all rented out. We're crushing it from a rental standpoint right now, doing really, really well, way better than I thought we would on it. And then and I was like, well, let's go do it again. What if I can go find like a plantation style home somewhere in South Carolina, coastal Georgia, or something like that? And so I just started looking for, again, 50 acres or more, unique historic kind of properties or something like that would just kind of stick out. And I found something that was 110 acres. And it was like a house, 110 acres. It was a house built in 2006, 4-bed, 4-bath. And I was like, where is this? I couldn't find the address, and I realized it was an entire island. So it's right next to Hilton Head Island, just south of Charleston, South Carolina, over near like Beaufort, South Carolina, if anybody's familiar. And it's an inland island. It's not like out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It's there's a couple barrier islands right at the coastline, and then this is like in between a bunch of rivers, but you have ocean views. You have all, like, it's surrounded by 350 acres of marshland that we also own, and there's 110 acres of uplands which are buildable, and we can do some cool stuff with it. So I came across it, man, and I wasn't even looking for an island, right? And it came across my desk, and I was like I can't not do this. It's only an hour and a half from my house. It's a remarkable location. It's a 5-minute access to the boat drop in, and then so it's easily accessible into the town, but it's still like completely pristine, preserved. It's all surrounded by conservation easements, and it's just untouched wilderness. Some of the best fishing in the entire country, but it's still, again, accessible to everything. You don't have to fly to the Bahamas or to the Virgin Islands or something in order to go beyond an island. And so and then I asked myself, how can we monetize this? How can I could just throw the house that's on there right now just up on Airbnb, and maybe it could make some money. But, I had some friends and was looking at like maybe building up some cottages, cabins. And then a buddy of mine was like, dude, check out these glamping like safari tents. And so I looked up some of those, and it's like 1/10 of the cost to build those things versus an actual cottage. And you don't have the zoning issues, you don't have the insurance issues, you don't have all that kind of stuff. And I was like, damn, that could really make sense. And so that's what we're doing. We're going to build a couple campsites around the island with 7, 8, and 10 tents in each one of the campsites. And then we're going to have like an event pavilion also at the other end that overlooks like the ocean and stuff to host weddings and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to make it kind of like an event and glamping type of a venue. And I think it's going to absolutely crush. Like, we've been running numbers, and it's like, it's a remarkable return on our investment. So it's just kind of crazy. It's kind of like I wrote it down, and then all of a sudden, 10 years later, it comes full circle, or 15 years later, whatever it was. And I find myself owning an island. I find myself owning a beach house. I find myself owning a mountain house. And, and there was other stuff on there that I didn't even know. How could it ever come to fruition? Like, one of the things on there, I don't even know where I came up with this, but like I wrote down, I want to be able to travel anywhere in the country, really anywhere in the world, and just be able to pick up the phone and call up somebody that I have a good enough connection with that just says, hey, let's go grab a drink, let's go grab coffee, let's go grab dinner, and I just want a friend essentially in every single city around the country. And how do you plan that, right? How do you organize that? How do you construct that? And when I got into real estate, I got into social media. I started teaching people about what I was doing. And then all of a sudden, people were asking me for mentorship, and I started a mastermind group. And this mastermind group, I have 150 members between my two masterminds. And like, legitimately, I have friends in Hawaii, Alaska, every major metropolitan city in the United States. And like, I could travel to any state right now and pick up the phone and say, hey, who wants to grab dinner? Right. And it's like, I don't know how that works. I don't know how like the universe responds, but it does. You write this stuff down, and all of a sudden it knows what your intention is, and it's in seated in the back of your mind, and all of a sudden the opportunity presents itself.
It's almost like the law of attraction, right? Because you wrote it down and you weren't chasing them directly, almost indirectly by putting your head down and just grinding with. What were you doing at the time? Were you this was with Legacy Wealth Holdings? Was this the real estate investment company with multifamily, and then these all just came to you?
Yeah. I mean, when I wrote this stuff down, I was straight out of college. I was like,
really? Okay.
Trying to figure things out. And I just wrote it all. It was 15 years ago. I'm 36 today. Yeah. So 15 years ago, I'm writing this stuff down. And what do I want to accomplish in my life? And what do I want people to say about me at my funeral? You read about some of these things. And I I wrote it all down. I didn't have anything else to do. So I wrote it all down, and I have it all saved on my computer about my bucket list and my goals for my entire lifetime. And then I try to like reverse engineer some of those goals. But dude, opportunity changes so much that I can't have 15-year goals anymore, right? Like my end of life goals are like, be a loving father and a loving spouse, and you know what I mean? Like it's
just
stuff that you can't really
things.
Quantify or like anything like that. And
put a number on.
Yeah, I mean, and I have essentially four different pillars of goals. One are my relationship goals, 2 is my health goals, 3 is my financial goals, and 4 is like my mental, spiritual kind of goals, personal development kind of stuff. And I used to say, hey, I want to own whatever, $100 million worth of real estate. Well, I friggin' blew past that in, a couple of years versus like that was like my 7-year goal or something like that. Yeah. So I don't even set goals out that long anymore. I do usually like 24-month goals, and I just put my head down and I work my tail off until I hit those benchmarks. And then I kind of reassess just because the opportunities change, and you realize maybe you get into business doing something. You're like, I don't want to do this for the next 7 years, like I just don't want to. And so, yeah, for me, I set goals out 24 months, and then I reverse engineer that into what does it need to look like over the next 12 months? What does it need to look like on a monthly basis? What does it need to look like on a weekly basis, daily basis? And usually there's an activity that then is going to lead to whatever that final goal is. A lot of people are like, hey, I want to flip, 8 houses a month. Well, 8 houses a month, closing 8 deals isn't something that you can actually control. It's the goal, but it's not like a controllable. The controllable is like you have to backtrack, like what leads to 8 deals a month? Well, it's making offers. Making offers is the activity that leads to those goals, right? So like that's the activity that you can control, that you can say, hey, if I make 100 offers this month and I close on 2 deals, then that means a ratio appeared. And next month if I want to close 8 deals, that means I got to make 400 offers. Does that make sense? If I want to do 10 deals the next month, I do 500 offers. And like that's once you understand what the ratio is from the activity that then leads to the end goal, then you can really quantify and have predictable results in your life.
It's really like hammering down on what you can control, and just, I feel like it's adjusting on the fly to what you can, because you can't plan everything out that the way it's going to happen. So it's really, I think it's adjusting on the fly. But
very much so, man.
I think one of the reasons that caption really hit hard with me, because it's the perfect explanation to explain where I'm at in life personally right now. Dropping out of school, not knowing what the future holds or just how things are going to unfold. But at the same time, if I write these things down and just get so specific on what I want out of life and just put my head down and just grind, like we were talking about the law of attraction, things will just start to naturally flow towards me. What do you think the importance of knowing what you want out of life, or over like how you're going to get there, like almost figure it out as you go type thing?
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's like a roadmap. If you plug into your GPS and you don't have a destination, where's your GPS going to take you, dude? You're floating on the wind. Like you can just drive around in circles. In order to get somewhere, you got to have the destination. And so if you're concrete about exactly what you want, where you want to go, you have the destination, then you can be very honest and open about what is your current starting point, starting position, right? And then you can create the roadmap in order to hit that destination. And so it's the same thing with your goals, man. It's hey, here's what I want to accomplish in my life, and not necessarily knowing the road that's going to take you there, but knowing that destination is much more important. Then you can find the route. Then you can find the road.
Because that can be very intimidating at first, knowing what you want, but not knowing how you're going to get there and what things are going to unfold. But it also can be more intimidating if you plan everything out. You're kind of just how you think things are going to unfold, and that it's just this whole big thing that kind of stops you from getting started, if that makes sense.
So, yeah, hang on a sec. My dog's barking. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think I've never been a guy who overanalyzed things. Like I know there's essentially four behavioral types out there, and One is like if you ever done a DISC assessment, like just Google search DISC assessment, and you'll see that there's 4 different types of behavioral types out there. And one of them is like very analytical, very data driven, like need to know all the answers before they can make a decision on anything, and then they still can't make a decision.
Yeah.
I've never really been that guy. I've always been the guy who just jumps and I'll figure out on the way down kind of a thing, like the route that I'm going to take. And sometimes to my detriment, right? Like I jump in, I follow people that I shouldn't follow, or especially early on when I couldn't really judge people's character and their values that well. I had some bad mentors, but I think you can learn just as much from bad mentors as you can from good mentors. Of like, here's how I don't want to be in business, right?
Yeah,
like, you see that with people who come from broken families, or a parent that beat them or something, and they're like, hey, I don't want to be that dad, and I want to be present with my kids, and I want to love on them, and all that kind of stuff. So I think you can learn just as much from bad influences as you can from good influences. But obviously, if you can surround yourself with good influences, that's a way better route. But yeah, man, I never really got tied up into the how. I knew that I'd figure it out. I've always been kind of a resourceful type of a person, meaning I never got caught up on, I don't have the money, right? Or, hey, I don't have the time, or, hey, I don't have the skill set. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the resources. Tony Robbins has a quote where he goes, resourcefulness is the ultimate resource, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you don't have the resources. If you're resourceful, you can go and find the resources. You can find the time. You can find the money. You can find the knowledge. You can find the experience. You can find the connections. And that's always how I've been. I've always looked for or asked myself questions on how can I versus telling myself that I can't. I think when you tell yourself that you can't do something, the creative juices in your brain just shut down and you move on to the next thought, kind of a thing, right? Versus asking yourself a question, it stimulates brain activity. It stimulates thoughts. It stimulates more questions. And it leads you down a path of better questions, which is going to lead you down a path of better answers as well. And so I've always just asked myself questions of, all right, hey, if I want to buy this mountain house, how do I need to do it? What do I need to do? What do I need to make sure that how do I need to structure the money? How am I going to handle management? How am I going to do this? And same thing with the island. I just asked myself, like, all right, how can I monetize this? How can I turn this goal of mine that's a liability, right? Because it wouldn't really make money as it sits right now. How can I turn it into an asset and own an island and make it pay for itself? Not only pay for itself, but put a ton of money in my pocket on an annual basis, and then eventually pay it all off. And then I own the whole island myself, and I could take the tents down and, hang out, retire on an island if I want. Or maybe I just leave it like that and I go buy another island, like who knows?
Yeah.
You don't need to have all the answers, man. I think it'll paralyze you if you're trying to find all the answers early on. I would rather see people take action than try to put the exact plan in place.
I agree. Yeah. You got into mentorship early on, and now you said you currently spend over 6 figures a year on coaching. You emphasize the importance of putting yourself in the right room with the right people who have the insights. Can you tell me why you really emphasize and push coaching so hard?
Yeah, man. Great question. So here's the thing. I think you, me, anybody listening to this podcast who knows they're made for more, right? We're going to eventually be successful, right? Like that's going to happen. It's just you just having the desire just to want to be more successful, to want more out of life, and to put yourself in a position to start a podcast or listen to podcasts that are talking about these kinds of things, that you're already on the right track, right? So like I knew that eventually I would make something happen and have some level of success in my life just because I wanted more.
Yeah.
And I was on a path and on a trajectory where it was a steady growth, right? And I was getting better and better. I'm smart enough to at least realize when I screwed up and how to not do that again, And then I just did another deal, and I did another deal, and I realized that real estate wasn't a startup. It wasn't like this it could go boom or bust kind of a thing, like a startup company or tech company or Bitcoin or whatever else. I knew that real estate worked, and then you could make a lot of money and build a lot of wealth in real estate if you just stayed consistent with it over time. So I had that sort of confidence in real estate, and that allowed me to push through a lot of the hurdles and a lot of the obstacles that I faced when I started out. Because I knew eventually it would work, right? It wasn't some experiment.
So it's a long-term game.
Exactly. And so, but dude, the first 7-8 years, I sucked at real estate. I was not good. I've been in real estate investing for 12 years now, a little over 12 and a half years. And, but I've been in real estate industry for 15 years. But real estate investing for 12 years. I was bad at real estate investing for the first 7 or 8 years of it, I would say. Got pretty good about maybe 4 years ago. And the reason being is I just stuck. I just kept on moving forward and getting a little bit better, a little bit incrementally, a little bit better every single deal that I did from my own learning mistakes, right? And I was paying for my education by losing money and spending a lot of time on doing deals. I got invited out to a mastermind in 2015 and plugged into a room of entrepreneurs who were at different levels in business, right? And they were, but even at different levels of business, the same pillars of business transcend, like the marketing, sales, accounting, finance, operations, human resources. Like it transcends business, it transcends industry, and there's just different levels of each one of those problems or each one of those areas of business as your business continues to grow. And so there were people at different levels in the room, people at different experience levels, some people facing the same problems that I was facing. And when I got in that room, I remember early on, I was like, how the hell do people build a business, right? I was doing 100% of the work. How do you start building a team? How do you start hiring people? How do you have 100 employees? Like, how is that even possible? I couldn't fathom it. And when I went into the room, they're like, dude, just hire an assistant, right? Start out with an assistant first. And I was like, it can't be like that easy, right? And first of all, it can't be that easy. Secondly, I don't have $40,000 a year to hire an assistant. They're like, one, it is that easy, and two, it's not $40,000 a year. It's like $3,000 a month. Test it out for 2 months. You're testing out $6,000. Can you stand to lose $6,000 over the hurdles and headaches that you're facing right now? I was like, yeah, I guess I could. So test it out for 2 months. Risk $6,000, and if you don't like it, fire them and go back to banging your head against the wall. And I was like, all right, let me do it. Like, these people were where I wanted to be, so I was going to take their advice. And so I hired somebody in March 1st of 2015, and the next 10 months, dude, I tripled my income of what I made the entire year before. So I made like 120, 130 grand the year before in 2014, which was my first time ever making six figures. And in 2015, I made 400 grand in 10 months. And I attribute that to the insights that I got from that mastermind. And then secondly, the connections I got from that mastermind, the private money that I got. I started doing deals with people in there, and I flipped, 60 houses with one of the guys in that mastermind group. And that was a big chunk of the money, right? And then plus I had access to other capital, transactional money and all that other stuff. So on top of the business growth and how to hire and how to restructure my team and all that kind of stuff, like that has been paid dividends for years and years and years that are almost unquantifiable. But just in that easily looked at, easily quantified margin over the course of those 10 months, tripled my income. And so I was sold out. I was like, dude, holy shit. Because I was a $30,000 a year mastermind. I just stroke a check for 30. It wasn't only hiring somebody for 40 grand a year, but it was also stroking a check to that mastermind for 30,000. That's a $70,000. It's more than half of my money that I made the year before from going out to this friggin' event, right? And but I looked at it as an investment, right? If I made an investment, I would get a return on that investment, and obviously I did because of that. And so I would say mentorship's important, and I've had single individual mentors before, and some things they're great at advising, and then some other areas, maybe they're great business people, but they have horrible marriage, or maybe they have horrible health, you know what I mean, or something along those lines. And so it's very hard to find somebody who fits the full picture. But that's what I love about masterminds. I went out to a mastermind, and it wasn't like I had one mentor. I had 15 mentors. And there's somebody who was leading with their relationship, somebody was leading with their health, somebody was leading with their business, and I could take insights from each one of them and try to implement those into my business. And so, and I realized, man, you're going to pay for the education one way or another, right? Yeah. You're going to pay for it either by getting kicked in the nuts over and over and over again by doing deals and learning through loss and learning through failure, or you're going to pay for it by going and getting mentorship and signing up for a mastermind group. And I can assure you, it's a lot less expensive, and the timeline is remarkably faster if you just go and get the mentorship and you invest in yourself, right? I don't think people don't see the value in masterminds. I think it's more, do they value themselves enough to stroke a check for $30,000 to go and join a mastermind group? Do they think that they have what it takes to then go and get that return on investment? Everybody I know who's in masterminds is like, dude, it's the easiest check for me to write every single year because I know the return on investment. But it's hard, man, to quantify the value of a mastermind group if you've never been in one. But I can assure you, man, it is hands down the best investment I could possibly make every year.
I think something I struggled with personally before joining Mastermind was seeing who's doing it from who's not. And because especially on social media, like nowadays, you're constantly just being sold buy my course, get rich quick type schema.
Yep.
So it creates this bad look for masterminds. So when somebody's like, this is 30 grand a year for this mastermind, you're going to get this network. It's hard to believe, but like once you get into it, it's creates this power and you're like, holy shit. Like,
and dude, it's lonely at the top, right? Like imagine, like I remember being a business owner, I couldn't have a conversation with anybody. Nobody understood what I was going through, right? I was the CEO. I couldn't talk to my employees because then they're going to be like, well, I want more money, or I want this, or I got to jump ship because this ship's sinking, right? Or like, like I can't talk to my employees. None of my buddies had businesses, so like I couldn't talk to any of them. I just felt like I was isolated on an island all the time. And until I joined a mastermind, I could finally somebody who gets it, somebody who understands what I'm going through and the issues I'm having with, operations and building a team and marketing and sales and cash flow management and all the other things. It's such a breath of fresh air.
I think there's so much to it that it improves your thinking, it improves your network, just constantly talking with like just people who think like you. It's so like energizing. It makes you feel like so much more alive. And I think I was thinking of this. I think at a young age, like especially like if you went through high school, like playing sports, you saw the importance of having a coach, even surrounding yourselves with better teams and better clubs in the off season. But as we grow up, not many people think of replicating that same process and from being a part of these high level sports teams and having these high level coaches. I think a lot of times we just think we can do it ourselves, and it just leads to this kind of pothole where you can't get out of something. It's
for sure.
It's hard to really grow just by yourself.
100%, man.
But that was the big thing I sort of took away. How would you say you separate the gurus of the people just trying to sell you some course, like buy my course, get rich quick, versus the avid entrepreneurs, active investors?
Yeah, man, I think that's a good question. I would say two things. See how much of a giver they are. Are they only about extracting and all that kind of stuff, or are they actually giving and giving and giving and giving and giving and giving and giving? If they're giving that much information away for free, you can only imagine how much they're going to give you if you actually pay, right? So that's one thing. And then the other thing is I would make sure that I connect with them and I associate with them and I appreciate like their core values, right? Like who are they? What do they stand for? What kind of person are they? I'd look at the leader of that organization, or I would look at people that have been in there for at least like 3 years or longer. So people who kind of birds of a feather flock together. I wouldn't look at any member of that mastermind, because if they're just kind of in there, there's people who kind of sneak in and they drop out. But if they've been in there for 3 or 4 years, that means they correlate with the values of the organization very well. And so I'd look at those people and I'd look at the leader and make sure that their core values align with mine and what I want to accomplish, right? Like if you got a leader of an organization who's out there and going to strip clubs and cheating on their wife and doing drugs all the time, guess what? Chances are a lot of the other people in their organization are going to be doing that same thing. And even if you're a loyal spouse and somebody who doesn't do drugs, you go and put yourself in that situation, man. Eventually, guess what? It rubs off on you and start going down that path. It's like, you're hanging out with people who eat salads every single day or people who eat French fries every single day. If you hang out with people who eat French fries every single day, chances are you're gonna grab a French fry once in a while, right? If you hang out with people who eat salads every single day, you're gonna feel bad about ordering the burger and the fries. You know what I mean? And you'll keep on getting the salad. So it's just putting yourself in that situation of making sure that you're only surrounding yourself with people who are doing the things and going in the direction that you want to go in.
Would you say real estate's your passion, or that rather it indirectly allows you to do the things you love, spend time with your family? What would you say about that?
Yeah, good question. I would say I'm not passionate about real estate. I like real estate. I like architecture. I like seeing the before and after of what something can be. So I like that aspect, but I'm not like, dead set on only doing real estate. What I'm set on is like building wealth and what the wealth can do, not just collecting money. And I don't obsess over money, but I obsess over like what money can do and the opportunities it can provide, the hospitals and the libraries it can build, the people you can support, the spouses you can retire, the parents you can retire, the trips you can take people on that they only read about in magazines. You know what I mean? Like I think that is what I'm more passionate about. And then, the greatest fulfillment that I get is actually going out to mastermind events. I remember I did it's kind of like this test. It's like a quantifiable test of taking things that you can't really quantify, and like how do you quantify your happiness, kind of a thing. And I wrote down like all the things that I do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, annual basis, and like all the different activities and like where I get the most fulfillment out of this and that and blah blah blah. And like masterminds checked 9 out of 10 boxes for me. And so that was kind of a realization for me that like, man, no wonder I love these masterminds so much, because I'm able to give, I'm able to get, I'm able to see other people and help them see themselves as more than what they can see themselves as without me, right? And see the value that they can bring and the potential that they have in themselves. And it was just like, I love the mastermind. So like, that's really what I'm passionate about. I love the coaching. I love the teaching. I love the mentorship. I love helping other people kind of get outside their own head and give them belief and let them borrow belief from me, a blue collar kid from Cleveland, Ohio. If I can do it, then anybody can. So, connecting them with the resources and helping them just kind of get outside of whatever headspace is holding them down. So like, that's what I'm more passionate about.
There's a big difference too, I think, in chasing money versus building wealth for a reason. Because a lot of people look at money, maybe money's bad, or it's just this interrelationship with money. But you clearly stated it. You were building wealth for a reason, and you might not have been passionate about it, but it allows you to. Would you say it clearly allows you to do the things and spend the time with the people you love?
Yeah.
Like that.
And I think it's always hard though, right? Like we are achievers. We are people who are always driving, who always want to do, make a bigger difference, make a bigger impact, and a lot of those kinds of things. So like I still have to be very intentional. Although I could stop right now, never do another thing, and just kind of, make multiple 7 figures a year for the rest of my life, and that'd be cool. I don't know. I feel like you're growing or you're dying, though. I think that's a universal law, right? You're either ripening or you're rotting. And for me, I always want to be growing. And so I still have balance and issues and stuff, and like making sure that I'm here and I'm present with my family when I am with my family, and like down here, I'm in Charleston, South Carolina. So I moved back down here full time last year, and like my office is in my house. It's in the main room. I'm looking at the kitchen, the dining room, and the living room, and it's just one big open area. And so the kids will be playing or something, be like, Daddy, can I come and Daddy, will you come and do a puzzle with me? I was like, buddy, it's during work hours. So like I'm struggling with that right now, where I was very back in Cleveland, like I had an office. So I went to the office and I worked. When I came home, I was 100% present. So here it's a little bit more difficult, and I'm trying to still balance that out. But I think, so I guess my point is, like, I don't want you to think that, even somebody with 4,000 plus apartment units and this big portfolio and stuff doesn't still kind of weigh out the balance of spending time and all that kind of stuff, because there are drivers in my life that are always pulling me towards doing more deals and all that. That's something I'm really like focused on right now, which is like, what do I want, right? Like, now that I'm here financially, how can I make the biggest impact while still hanging out with the family? And essentially I'm asking myself better questions, right? Some people are like, all right, well, if I worked 60 hours a week, what can I accomplish? I'm asking myself, how can I accomplish this working 6 hours a day, 4 days a week? If I can work from 8 to 2, hang on a second. No, it's 9. Yeah, it's 9 to 3 is essentially what my workout, because my kids go to school at 9, or really like 7:30 and 9. And then by the time my one kid gets home, it's around 2:30, 3 o'clock-ish. So I was like, I only want to work while they're at school, and then I want to be 100% present from then on. And so like, that's one of the things I'm working on right now. How do I accomplish all the things I want to accomplish inside these 6 hours? And then I'm like, well, I can't just do more of what I'm already doing. I need to hire the right people. I need to put some people in place. I need to put better processes in place. I put better systems in place. I had to put, who do I need to hire to take some of these things off my plate, so I'm not doing that kind of stuff, and I can just focus during those 6 hours, 4 days a week. 'Cause my son's home on Fridays, so I don't want to work Fridays. So I was like, how can I accomplish all these things in just this window of time? And dude, you find that you're not wasting your time doing a bunch of time filler activities. Yeah, exactly. You're very productive during those hours, saying, hey, I want to work 24 hours a week, and I want to make $10 million a year. Okay.
You said this with Carlin too. You said focusing on the urgent versus the important tasks. How to get the things that need to get done today versus the things that are going to move the needle along for the future.
Yeah, man, you gotta, the urgent stuff will always fill your plate. The urgent stuff will always be there. There's always going to be something that's urgent, but you got to look at your activities and say, what is important, right? Like, what is highly important? And dude, I would time block at least 1 day a week only working on important activities that have zero urgency to it whatsoever, other than the urgency that you put on it, right? So say, hey, I got to put these new systems in place. This Friday, I'm spending all day Friday working on the business instead of in the business. When you're working on the business, you're working on important activities. When you're working in the business, you're working on urgent activities. And the urgent stuff doesn't move the needle, not long term anyways.
Yeah.
So like, the more time you can spend on important activities, dude, your business will, and that's why masterminds are powerful, right? It forces you to take 2 or 3 days a quarter away from your business, totally unplugged, thinking about ideas and strategy and philosophy of how you're going to move the business forward, instead of just keeping your head down and just working, right? Because that's always going to fill up your plate with urgent stuff that's not that important typically.
The last section I want to jump into is education, and I don't want you to look back and say I regret this way, but if you could look back out of high school, going into your transitional stage of life, where would you be at, like, with those next 4 to 6 years? Would you go to college, or would you jump right into a mastermind, or how would those 4 to 6 years differ at all?
Oh man, good question. So like, because a lot of people are like, hey, if you started over again when you were 22 after you got out of college, what would you do? And that's an easier question. It's harder when you start looking back at like high school and before college, like what were the differences? There's a few different, because I wasn't mature enough, I don't think, to go and start a business on my own at the age of 18. I wanted to go and chase girls. I wanted to go and party. I wanted to go have fun with my friends. Dude, I was like always out I was always about having a good time and stuff. Not really good, like getting in trouble or anything, but just having fun. We joked around all the time at poker nights all the time, and like went and saw, just hanging out, having fun, being a kid. So I don't think I was mature enough maybe to start a business and take it as serious as I needed to be until after college. And I made some amazing relationships. Met my wife in college, met several of my best friends in college, and met a bunch of people that I do business with today. in college as well. And so, I can't, I don't love the traditional educational system. Um, I think there's certain schools and certain studies and that kind of stuff that can be very valuable. Obviously, if you're going to be like a white collar attorney or doctor or something, you got to go to school, right? If you're going to be an entrepreneur, I don't think I was mature enough to probably realize what I needed to do, and college was probably a good move for me, at least. Um, I think about this with my kids. Like, do I want to send my kids to college, and what does that need to look like? I will say that all my best friends today met through social media, met through masterminds. Like the people I go on vacation with met through masterminds, right? The people that, I go to their kids' birthday parties, they come to my kids' birthday parties, typically, mastermind friends. And I'm essentially on vacation with them 4 times a year with our families and stuff. So like, they're some of my best friends today. And if there was a network like that I could have afforded early on, then yeah, that would probably be just as valuable, if not more valuable, than college. I can't really remember anything. There's a couple of marketing classes that I recall a few items from there in college, but dude, I can't remember anything that I formally learned in college other than really there's 2 or 3 things and that's it. Otherwise, man, it was just all relationships and learning about life and interacting and all that kind of stuff. And I think I needed that when I was 18. I don't think I was mature enough yet.
Cole Hatter said said something interesting. He on Instagram, he was talking about how his kids' schools were requiring them to get the vaccine, and he wasn't for that. So he took his kids, hired a tutor, teamed up with a few other families, and he was like, now my kids are going to learn growth mindset, communication, things that school would have never taught them. And he was like, actually teaming up with 4 or 5 other families, it's not as expensive as you think it would be. So
I mean, what does it cost? It costs $60,000 a year to hire a badass teacher. It's $15,000. You get 2 kids and 4 families. Everybody's paying $7,000 a kid or something. It's not that expensive. It's cheaper than private school, and then maybe you don't have to buy and pay for property taxes in the most expensive school district either. If you want to send your kids to public school. And so, no, dude, I agree. Tucker Max is another friend of mine, and out in Texas, he's doing the exact same thing. And he's like, dude, I want my kids thinking about philosophy and logic and reasoning and interpersonal, emotional intelligence kind of skills and those kinds of things. And I couldn't agree more. I think if there was my kids go to public school, but I also live on an island, right? My beach house, right, is on an island that has there's not a house around here for less than $1 million. So it's pretty much a private school. It's everybody's parents own a business, or they're attorneys, or they run banks, or something along those lines. And so they're around other kids who are getting the same amount of influence at their homes about thinking like business owners and being goal oriented and being success oriented and being achievement oriented. Dude, I don't need my kids to make a bunch of money. I just want them to be the best that they can be in anything that they do. If they want to be ballet dancers, they can go and do that. I just want them to aspire to perform at the highest level in whatever that they do. And so I just want them to have a success and achievement oriented mindset. But yeah, I mean, dude, if the school was ever dude, you got to get your kid vaccinated, I wouldn't be okay with that.
Yeah.
If people want to go get vaccinated, I don't give a shit if they want to go do that or not. I don't want other people pushing that on me and forcing me to do, I don't care if it was just yelling at me to do anything, even if it was beneficial. Let me make up the decision myself, right? Leave that off me. So no, I totally agree with what he's got going on. And Cole's a really smart guy and has a lot of good insights, and is a very wise person, and really reflects well on, life and what's going to be best. But yeah, I mean, there's a big conversion happening with homeschooling, where it used to be kind of weird when I was growing up. Now it's a lot of entrepreneurs are I don't want my kid in this school system. And this school that my kids are in, I really, I pay attention to what they're doing and how they're doing it and everything.
Yeah.
There's no political agenda or anything like that. So if there was, I would absolutely consider doing that. But I got a bunch of buddies who do homeschool their kids too, and they love it, man. You can go travel,
awesome.
right?
Yeah.
Like imagine showing your kids the Sistine Chapel instead of reading about it in a book, or traveling around for the summer in or during the school year in an RV, hitting up every single one of the national parks with your family. Like that's something that creates character that nobody else has ever done, and is going to open up so many doors for them with conversations and make them so much more of an interesting individual as they grow older. So, putting my kids in those types of circumstances and exposing them to as much stuff as I possibly can is really what I think my job is as a parent.
That's awesome. And if people want to find more about you, we talked about coaching, the importance of coaching. You have your Legacy Boardroom coaching, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that legacyboardroom.com?
Mm-hmm. And legacyboardroom.com. That's my mastermind. And it's,
they'll be able to find you social media at Tim, TIMBRATZ.
Yep. At Tim Bratz on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I'm most active on Instagram and Facebook. And then I post on LinkedIn and TikTok and some of the other ones once in a while, but yeah, hit me up on Instagram, hit me up on Facebook. I'm very active on those. Send me a message if you guys got anything you want to talk about, or bounce off me if I can make a connection or share a resource or something. I'd be happy to do that. But yeah, buddy, I appreciate you having me, man. Great job on the first podcast. And if there's anything I can do, don't hesitate to let me know.
I appreciate that. And I look forward to seeing you in November.
All right, buddy. See you in November.
If you guys enjoyed this, or if you found some value, be sure to hit that like button. That'll help out the algorithm. I should be uploading new podcasts like this weekly. So if we covered anything that interests you, be sure to hit that subscribe button as well.